Welcome to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. We are broadcasting from the Mercy Live Up Studios, heard on 1150 AM, 88.5 FM, and 94.5 FM. Around the globe, streaming online at iowacatholicradio.com and on the Iowa Catholic Radio app. Also, please subscribe to our podcast and rate us if you are feeling generous today. If you're not feeling generous, do not rate us. I am Joe Stopulos, along with Father Zach Kautsky, and today we are joined by James Baxter from the website thosecatholicmen.com. We are going to learn about their ministry and what they can do to help men everywhere to answer their call to holiness. Father Zach, would you please open us up in prayer?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Remember, most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thy intercession, was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my Mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother and the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Father Zach, we have talked about this previously, about the Internet being so often used for bad and evil ends, but it can also be good, used to bring very, very good out of it. And we try to bring light to the dark parts of the Internet as much as possible and hold up the good when possible. As we've talked about in our episode with Father John Riccardo's homily, podcasts are a great source of education and knowledge, especially podcasts like this one. Subscribe now. Tell your friends.
Yeah, it's on
everyone.
iTunes.
Yes, iTunes.
Right? iTunes.
Check it out. And other Catholic-centered shows. They can help us grow in our faith. And so go kind of moving on from podcasts. Let's talk about other places on the Internet, specifically other websites that you would recommend people kind of subscribe to and make their regular occurring websites to go to.
Well, there's on Twitter, a number of great people to follow. Sister Helena Burns is one that comes to mind. She's a blogging nun, young, very funny, but also gives great reflections. But a lot of these bloggers on Twitter will link you up to other articles that are of interest. So I think one thing is to go on Twitter and look who you're following and find some Catholic people to follow. I think Bishop Robert Barron from Word on Fire.
Father Mike Schmitz.
Yeah, there's a number of great people to follow on Twitter. And there's a website called Eye of the Tiber, which is a parody website of Catholic news, which is pretty funny.
We gotta have fun with ourselves.
You gotta have fun sometimes.
We gotta have fun with ourselves.
I think Jimmy Akin, who's a Catholic writer, very bright man, has been on Catholic Answers. Jimmy Akin and the National Catholic Register's website, very, very informative, a lot of guest writers. And, you know, the awesome thing is, Joe, that it used to be that when the Pope gave a speech, you might not hear about it for months or may not be able to read the text. We now have instantaneous watching. So like the Pope's general audience that he gave earlier today in Rome, that was live streaming on Twitter where I could click and watch it if I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just amazing. We have access to the Holy Father's words that he gives every day almost instantaneously. Encourage you, of course, to read what he says.
Yeah. In addition to those, I would obviously point out Catholic.com, which is the hub for Catholic Answers Live and their ministry over there. And so Catholic Answers Live or Catholic.com is a great resource for all things Catholic. Catholic News Agency, if you're looking for what's going on day to day in the Catholic world, Catholic News Agency does a great job. NewAdvent.org does a great job of compiling tons of different articles from great authors. And this is going back to the apps side of things, the Laudate app. I can't tell you how many people I've run into that have the Laudate app. It's a tremendous resource. You get daily readings, Saint of the Day. You get a whole
reflections. Yeah.
It is if you don't have the Laudate app, make sure you go out and get that because it is everything, not everything you need to know, but most of the stuff you need to know in your daily prayer life right there. So that's another great app. But there's just so much good stuff on the Internet. As Father Zach talked about on Twitter, look and see who you're following. I would say if you're following people that are taking you away from the Lord, stop following them. Same thing on Facebook. And start filling those people in with the Pope. Fill in with Bishop Robert Barron, with Brandon Vaught, those kinds of people who are going to continually fill your feeds with good Catholic upbeat programming, with good articles that are going to help you grow in your faith. At the end of the day, you are what you consume, right? So if you're consuming terrible bad media all the time, that's what you're going to become. And if you're consuming good, holy media, you'll become that. So we're going to head to a short break, but when we return, James Baxter from thosecatholicmen.com will be with us. So stick around, and we will be right back.
My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through. You carry my weakness.
Welcome to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. We are broadcasting from the Mercy Live Up Studios, heard on 1150 AM, 88.5 FM, and 94.5 FM, and around the globe, streaming online at iowacatholicradio.com and on the Iowa Catholic Radio app. I am Joe Stopulos, along with Father Zakowski, and today we are joined by James Baxter.
James Baxter is the executive director of Those Catholic Men. He grew up in the Promised Land of Indiana,
Which is not
which
true.
is debatable.
It's very
I think
debatable.
he provided this bio.
He sent the bio to us.
Totally
Promise.
true.
He was public schooled K through 12, and had a rebellious phase against the conformity of secular culture, becoming a son of the church. He was exiled to the University of St. Thomas
We like that.
in
That's
St.
good.
Paul,
Now we're getting
Minnesota,
closer to Iowa.
where he
Gotta
studied
keep it dramatic
philosophy.
with the bios.
Very good, very good.
These are his words, everybody.
Yeah.
He studied philosophy, Catholic studies, and classical languages. He then studied theology at St. Meinrad Archabbey in Indiana. He dabbles in golf, enjoys Maker's Mark Old Fashions.
Which your co-host Joe Stopulos also enjoys very much.
I also enjoy them.
Okay, good, Joe.
And is made whole by Jane Austen novels.
Which is that's not me as much, I suppose.
Okay.
But we can do the golf and the old-fashioned sometimes.
Welcome
James,
to the show.
James, welcome.
Good. Hey, thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be on here with you.
Yes, so
appreciate
James,
the opportunity.
James, let's start at the top for those men listening. Tell us about the website. The website is thosecatholicmen.com. Can you give us an overview on what you guys do and what your mission is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, thosecatholicmen.com was started about 3 years ago by a priest from our diocese, the Diocese of Lafayette in Indiana, named Father Brian Dorr. And basically, Father Dorr found himself in the wilderness. This is a true story. And he was doing some trail clearing with a men's group out west. And he realized, kind of on this truly a mountaintop experience, that he wanted to create an online resource for Catholic men. Wherever he would go, preaching, giving talks, etc. He always got this question from people, which was, I love what you say, your message resonates with me, the need for the man to be a leader in the family and in the community, in the parish as well. But where can I go to receive this similar kind of formation? And obviously there's lots of great general Catholic contents out there, but he felt like there was a gap. And so he decided to create it. So that's the origin of Those Catholic Men. He came down the mountain, talked to the fraternity that kind of surrounds him, a number of seminarians at the time, and a few guys who have since discerned out and into the lay life. And we kind of took all of our millennial gifts with the web, with technology, and tried to make it happen. So we've been publishing now pretty much. There's definitely been some ebbs and flows, but now we're publishing every day, Monday through Friday. And,
That's pretty good. That's really good.
Pretty good. Yeah, so it's all original content. The cool thing about it was, you think about the questions that are being asked today by our society, so much of them revolve around the identity of man and woman, right? And a lot of people take some pretty interesting perspectives on that, and all of a sudden we're stuck with the mess of things like gender fluidity and all of that. And just because I think we, really had a good timing, we were blessed with good timing, these messages from Catholic men all over the country. Our readership grew and grew and grew, and authors, we stopped being in a position where we needed to approach people, and they would approach us wanting to associate with our work. And so we've generated quite a following over the last 3 years. So, that's a little bit about the origin of thosecatholicmen.com.
So how many writers did you guys have at the beginning, and how many do you have today?
At the beginning, it was just a handful. So we really weren't in a position to publish very often because there was just a few priests. Truthfully, some of the seminarians, we took some pen names, and we would write. So it was just a handful of us, but over time, just by being faithful to the little we could produce, more and more, men decided to write for us. So, I mean, it's cool because you've got a lot, the thing that we ask of our authors is that what they write about to be the fruit of their own contemplation, their experience of the face of Christ today, and also considering their experience of life, the joys and the struggles as well. So we've got authors in, different vocations, different professions, different ages, all coming together with the same goal of inspiring their brothers, other Catholic men across the country to really think with converted minds in a pretty confusing time today. So.
How are you selecting the topics that you talk about when you
So,
write?
Yeah, we're at a point now where we do have an editor-in-chief, so he kind of shapes our content for the month. So every month our authors get a letter from him. So this month's, topic was mentoring, so give some practical tips for how we can, pass on the faith and virtuous lessons to the next generation. So topics are generated that way. That all being said, though, I mean, our big thing is that this is the fruit of your prayer. So if this is something where you're led to go another direction, or you've got an experience that you want to share that you met with at your work or on vacation or whatever, we're open to that as well. But we'll typically take a topic and try to tackle it over the course of a month.
That's great. Father Zach and I talk a lot about, and we've done it already this episode, about the fact that the internet has so much bad on it. There's so much negativity and straight evil on the internet, and it's so great when you can find quality Catholic programming, quality Catholic websites. And so, we were excited to learn about yours and to dive into it a little bit, because I think what you guys are doing is what it's what men need. It's not like a tweet, so it's not 140 characters or whatever, but it's not some long dissertation. They're good articles with substance. I think that's what men need today, is to find I can't read long St. Thomas Aquinas type articles, but at the same time I need more than a tweet, and I think you guys found a nice thing right in the middle there.
What I think is great about your website is that you use even non-Catholic authors. You use sources. You have General Grant's Guide to Being Prepared. You talk about Pokemon Go and maybe the downfalls of Pokemon Go, that app. And so there's a lot of just interesting content you have that relates back to our faith. Taking on, even Pope Francis's kind of famous "Who am I to judge?" quote. So I think a lot of the articles are very timely and just interesting. And I think that, as Joe said, that length of there's a brevity there, but also some real meat there.
Yeah. Well, so we're joined today by James Baxter, who is the executive director of ThoseCatholicMen.com, and we're discussing their ministry and what they're doing to help become a resource to Catholic men. And I want to turn the conversation from the content of the website to a challenge that you guys do, which has really piqued my interest. I'm not necessarily saying I'm doing it. We'll talk about that later. But let's have a conversation on the Exodus 90. Let's talk about the origins of it and where it's going.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Joe. So Exodus 90 is, again, the fruit of Father Doerr's priestly ministry. Our founder, Father Brian Doerr, he was the vice rector after being our vocations director in the Diocese of Lafayette. He became the vice rector at Mount St. Mary's Theological Seminary in Emmitsburg, Maryland. And a few years into his time there, he noticed something obvious, which was the men could be more free as they approached big commitments in ordination. And so guys are struggling with various things, whether that would be pornography or lesser forms of unfreedom, maybe just Netflix binging, overeating, over alcohol consumption, or just using technology in ways that took away from authentic human experiences. And so he took a couple of them and said, I want to give this a shot. I want to try to pray, to fast, and to live in fraternity for 90 days like we never have before. And the 90 days, the number 90 is very significant from his reading of the psychological sciences and how long it takes, for behavior to become habitual. So we, truthfully, that experience for the guys was difficult. So some of the, they woke every morning, 5:45 for prayer. And penances basically touched every aspect of their lives. That was so not eating in between meals.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second. Can you give us
Sure.
the tenets of, let's scare the crap out of all of our listeners here. Give us the tenets of what this thing is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, penance is huge for this. It's really the kind of the crux of it, and where the men experience the greatest freedom. Because what we do when we take on penance is, we're reforming, a fallen nature that is, and we've also personally sinned. So it's a kind of reformation. It's like going to the chiropractor. And so yeah, it's a little bit extreme. So no alcohol, no food in between meals. Wednesdays and Fridays are serious fast days. But you try to avoid all kinds of, sugary drinks, cold showers in the morning. No television, no technology for anything other than academic or work purposes. When you shop, you've got to have the permission of the group, because some guys can struggle with just spending more money than they've really got. And so basically you're left in a position where you're incredibly dependent on this fraternity that you meet with 3 times a week. And so Father Door's observation, though, as terrible as this sounds, and it's like,
And let the record show, it does sound terrible. Cold showers, no alcohol, and no sports does not sound like something you're advertising, and you're going to get a lot of people jumping in on it.
Yeah. No, you're right. But what's funny about it is all of these things are simple things that we do every day, and we can kind of indulge ourselves with every day with these very, simple, straightforward things. One of the things, John Henry Newman's a great inspiration to me, and in his sermons, the thing that's really funny, because he's huge on penance as well, and the ways he encourages, the people that are listening to him preach back in the 19th century to practice penance was through very, very simple things like actually kneeling at church and not like quasi sitting down. And so we Father Door kind of took that same thing, that these penances, it's not like we need to wear hair shirts, but they're, we can be more free in the ordinary things of every day. So what Father Door noticed, though, was about after 2 weeks, the guys would come into their fraternity meetings and they were lit up. They had an authentic experience of joy because they're becoming more free. So that's the origin of Exodus within, the seminary out east. And Father Door would do something like 10 to 12 other fraternities throughout the next couple of years when he was the vice rector. And it really was kind of a cultural shift. So what we decided to do at those Catholic Men was use kind of the leverage and the reach of our website to kind of promote this program. And so for us, we were stoked about it because it was our first breach of virtual reality. It's an ironic thing to run a website, and for probably the most consistent message to be, we use media to limit media. And so we're really proud of the fact that with Exodus 90, we've ushered a challenge to men all around the country that can be taken and accepted if it's for them. And for us, it's a step outside of virtual reality and into the flesh and blood lives of everyday Catholic men around the country. So, we were definitely met with a lot of criticism at the beginning, like how can you expect lay guys with work and family commitments to do this? And over the last 5 months, the testimonies have poured in, and we have about 500 men registered in Exodus right now, actually. And it's amazing how willing men are to become better versions of themselves, and we help them to do that with Exodus 90.
You're listening to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. Today we're joined by James Baxter, and we're talking about the topic of being called to greatness and his Exodus 90 program through their website, thosecatholicmen.com. So there's kind of 4 parts to this program, right? Kind of prayer, asceticism, like the penances that you mentioned, that kind of brotherhood piece where the guys are meeting every so often.
Yes.
And then the fact that it goes on for 90 days.
Right.
And do you have any testimonials or any feedback you've gotten from guys that have done it that would be helpful to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to actually share one with you from obviously I'm going to keep his name anonymous for reasons here that you'll see.
Yeah.
A man from Colorado. He wrote to us and he said this: I'm 55 years old, and I've struggled with my addiction to pornography since I was 12. I tried everything over the years to no avail. The Exodus 90-day program was a dream come true for me. Not only did it help me break my addiction, it improved my life in so many other ways. The program taught me how to discipline myself in all aspects of my life. I'm so much happier, healthier, and focused. When I'm at work, I work more efficiently so that I have more time to spend with my family. One of the greatest gifts I received through the Exodus program is that at the end of the 90 days, it coincided with my wife's and I's 25th wedding anniversary. For the first time in 25 years of marriage, I was able to present my wife with a chaste husband on our anniversary.
Beautiful.
So that was pretty cool when we got that letter, from this man. But honestly, other guys enter into Exodus, and pornography is not the big struggle. It's just knowing, especially for men who are trying to man up, like you guys are promoting. We do pray, and maybe we are practicing a little bit of penance, but it's precisely those guys who kind of get it, that know that they can be better. And I love it when those kind of more experienced, maybe even more prayerful men, come into the program and find that they're just, more present to their circumstances, whether that's at work or once they return from work and go home. I love those simple testimonies that aren't necessarily like life, changing, addiction-breaking kinds of things, but just simple, like, yeah, I am way better and way more intense, because I am free to encounter
There's progress
God in my
there.
prayer.
Do you have here's what we're thinking. Do you have a light version that allows a guy to, have a beer and watch football?
Yeah, just a mini, like an Exodus 90 light.
Like an Exodus 45
or something like that.
No, truth be told, no, we don't.
Okay.
We've got some future hopes for
Sorry,
some
Joe.
programming that could lead into Exodus 90.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. Your program makes Lent look like a fun Sunday. I mean, it looks like
Yeah. Well, I mean, the cool thing. I mean, maybe not the cool thing, but in the tradition, like Saint Francis, he observed many periods of penance throughout the year. And I think that's something that Father Dorr has kind of helped our fraternity to see, and the guys who encounter this. It's that, yeah, we say it's for 90 days, but most of the guys, after they go through it, realize, like, shoot, this really isn't for 90 days.
They continue to
this
do
is
it.
for life.
Yep.
Well, James, thank you so much for joining us today. I can obviously encourage all of our listeners to go to your guys' website, thosecatholicmen.com. Also, I'm assuming you guys are on Twitter and Facebook. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, absolutely. We're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram as well. And for the Exodus program, you can visit exodus90.com for more information about that experience.
Also a link on the website to the Exodus program.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you, James, so much for taking time to talk with us today. We're going to head to a short break, and we're going to be back with your 99-second homily with Father Zach.
Okay, Father Zach, Joe, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through. You carry my weakness.
Thank you, Global Tech Services and Global Aviation Resources, for underwriting the Man Up Show. Mike and Carolyn Shoja are parishioners at St. Francis of Assisi and are proud supporters of Iowa Catholic Radio. That's Global Tech Services and Global Aviation Resources. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. We are broadcasting on 1150 AM, 88.5 FM, and 94.5 FM. I am Joe Stopulos alongside Father Zach Kautsky, and we just had an awesome conversation with James Baxter of thosecatholicmen.com, and specifically on their challenge, the Exodus 90. Just knowing that there are men out there that are doing this challenge is
It's awesome.
It's extremely inspiring
great
to
to
me.
hear.
It's funny, I feel pretty good about myself when I abstain from meat on Fridays. And these guys are going without alcohol, sports, and taking cold showers for 1/4 of the year. So meat on
They are
Fridays.
true men, those Catholic men.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, meat on Fridays doesn't sound too bad all of a sudden. So now for your 99-second homily in 99 seconds with Father Zakowski.
Catholic author Scott Hahn tells the story that one of his priest friends visited Rome, and on the steps of one of the churches he saw a beggar with a familiar face. With a thrill of horror, he realized that it was one of his classmates from the seminary, and he rushed over to him. "Didn't we go to seminary together?" he asked. "Yes," the beggar affirmed. "You're a priest?" "Not anymore," the beggar replied. "I fell off the deep end." A short time later, Scott Hahn's friend had an audience with Pope John Paul II. He told him the entire story and asked him to pray for his friend. John Paul assured him that he would and then whispered something to an aide. Later that day, the priest received a phone call inviting him to come with the ex-priest to have dinner with the Pope. He rushed off to the church where he had seen him, and by God's grace, he was still there on the steps. Upon hearing about the invitation, he said, "I'm a mess. I haven't showered in a long time. Clothes are filthy." But his friend took him back to his hotel room, helped him get cleaned up, and they went to dinner with the Holy Father. At the end of a very enjoyable dinner, the Holy Father asked to be alone with the ex-priest. After a long time, the latter emerged with tears in his eyes. "What happened in there?" his friend asked. "The Pope asked me to hear his confession," choked the beggar. After regaining composure, the man continued, "I told him, 'Your Holiness, look at me. I'm a beggar. I am not a priest.' And the Pope looked at me and said, 'My son, once a priest, always a priest. And who among us is not a beggar? I, too, come before the Lord as a beggar, asking for forgiveness of my sins.' I told him I was not in good standing with the church, and he assured me, as Pope, that he could reinstate me right then and there." After he heard the Holy Father's confession, the priest asked John Paul II to hear his, and then received an assignment to minister to beggars on the steps of that very church from which he just came. What a beautiful story. Love that story of humility. Yeah, one of my favorite John Paul II stories. We're so grateful for the goodness of God and the humility of that great saint, John Paul II.
Thank you for that story, Father. And obviously the call to confession for all of us is every week. We need to continually reach for confession, run to that confessional whenever we need it. It's one of the great graces of the church. Well, thank you again for joining us on Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. For Father Zach Kautsky, I am Joe Stopulos. It's time to man up.